For nearly 45 years on KTIB, Sunday mornings were brought in with lively energy and great passion for the Lord's message through music, as the Sensational Southern Tones presented a talented blend of harmony and devotion to God. We recently caught up with group members Johnny Verrett, Freddie Williams, Ray Robinson, and Reverend Lewis Clark about their life and times with the Southern Tones and on KTIB. So let me start. Mr. Verrett, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
Very much. Well, let's start from the beginning. What year did the Southern Tones start performing?
The Southern Tones started performing during the 1950, around 52, 53, I think. Yeah.
Well, how did the group first come together?
My house. Yeah, at Layton Plantation. That's where it began there.
Well, the group, it also began at the Layton Plantation at Mr. Williams' house. There were Mr. Williams, his brother Eddie, Lloyd Thomas, Lawless Thomas, and we had another guy, Lewis Jones and Calvin Woods. Those guys were living in that neighborhood during that time, and they were coming together, putting their voice together from going to local churches, and they found that they can do that as young guys around in the community. That's how it started.
Well, I'd sure like to know, how did the Southern Tones first get hooked up with KTIB?
Well, the Southern Tones got hooked up with KTIB. It was during the time when I think that was Sister Lillian Joseph, I think, had a group that was from Johnson Ridge. One of the ministers, I think, was able to allow them to come in and have an announcement, I think it was. And from that inception, she was able to contact the Southern Tones to give them some help, in there singing on the radio station. I think that's where it began from that point. Yes.
Very much so. Now, so basically, it would have been right after the station first went on the air, the show got started?
Somewhat, yeah, around 52, I think. When the station began, around 50.
Around December 53.
53, yeah. So that was during that time, I think it was, yeah.
Okay. Now, one question I'd like, also in those early days, it was only, about a 10-minute show?
15 minutes was given at that time, and that was, I think Sam Eden was director of the station at the time, and that was here Joe LeBlanc, who was in charge of the announcement when we would come on in the morning. We were on the corner where the sheriff office is at now. That's where the radio station was located at that time.
Now, you just told a little story before we ran the tape that also back then, I know you did some announcing, but that you also used to have your own commercials during the show, right?
That was later. That was during the 60s when I joined the group, and we would do a 15-minute segment of community announcements, and we had some of the businesses in the city who would advertise with us. Toll Texaco service station, first with Josephine and Jean. Then there was Margarita's Beauty Parlor, and also there was another place on Louisa Street with a business that we also advertised for during that time. And then we, after the Lord blessed me and called me into the ministry, I moved on, and then the group was able to take over the half an hour to make up for that 15-minute segment we used to use.
I also understand from talking to you, Mr. Brett, a little while back, that since some of the members worked in the sugarcane industry, that during grinding, many of the musical selections on the show had to be pre-recorded, right?
Right. These selections were pre-recorded from the pre-program that we did at different churches throughout the community, and we would record these songs at that setting, and then we would have these songs played on the station since we were not here at that time. Due to working conditions, we had to leave, and we had someone to play those tapes from the live program that we had previous during that week.
All right. Now, you told me a good story on the phone. I'd like for you to repeat to everybody. Tell the listeners about how you first got Raymond Ellis to come on board.
Well, it was the time when I was a school teacher at West Hillbrook Junior High. And Mr. Ellis was very fond of the group, and he was a very religious guy. And he wanted to be a part of the group. So I talked with him. Every morning he would make the school announcement. He would come on with a very melodious voice to give the kids their announcements and things for the teachers to do. And I listened to that very well, and I talked to him. I said, Mr. Ellis, I think you would be a very good asset to the station along with our group. I said, why don't you give it a try? I said, come by our rehearsal, and we'll audition with you, and you just listen to how we sing, and you sit with us, and then we'll try and get you to come with us when we're not there during the grinding time. And he said, well, let me think about it, and I would try and meet with you. So he met with us at Mount Zion Baptist Church one rehearsal night, and we were kidding around and talking, and the very next Sunday we had to go to work. So he said that he would come in and take care of the program for us, which he did.
Very much so. Now, before I get too far ahead of myself, over the years, how many albums or singles did the Southern Tones release?
It was 145.
145.
Yes. That was the only one.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Was that recorded here in Thibodaux or town?
In New Orleans.
Along the way, have y'all won any awards for any of your performances or broadcasts?
We received the citation from Mayor of New Orleans for appearing at the Jazz Fest. That was I can't recall the year. We did receive the award from the mayor as let's see what this award was. Award for best gospel singing. And the mayor, Bartholomew, he awarded this to us from his office during the time. As we left the stage, there were Mr. Sherman Washington, the manager of the Zion Harmonizer, and he had us to come into the Jazz Fest with them, and they gave us the citation for appearing as, the black gospel group and one of the best that appeared on in that program.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Talking to some of the gentlemen that used to run the board, such as Chuck Botwell, Doc Berry, over the years, they mentioned to me, of course, the opening of your show, I believe, was entitled Lord Let Me Live. How did that become the show's opening?
Well, that selection was a very popular selection, and it was written by one of the members of the Southern Tone. It was written by Brother August Horton. He's not here now. He's working at Sugar Mill. And he put those words together in lyrics, and along with some of the other guys in the group, along with the guitar player, Mr. Ray Robertson, he set the melody to all of this. And we rehearsed about 3 or 4 months with that selection. And we put another selection in the back, which we have done, which we used from another group. And that selection was done 11 o'clock one morning in the studio in New Orleans after a number of rehearsals and going over. And we felt that we had a popular demand for that number each time it was played on KTIB. We had cards and letters and phone calls came in, and they requested, please play Lord Let Me Live. If you do anything else today, play this for us. And this is how it became so popular. And we let that used to be our theme song because of the popular demand from the community. Yeah, and the different churches who would love to hear the Southern Tones sing that selection. Yeah.
The show, of course, aired here on KTIB for many decades, and over the years, we had different ownership groups, different managers. Of course, Mr. Block, Mr. Jackson, and Mr. Larson were the original owners, and then Mr. Sadie came in 73. I take it, with the long-standing presence of the show, you must have had a pretty good working relationship with all those gentlemen.
Yeah, we really did, and they made it possible for us to air our programs. As we mentioned earlier, Raymond Sadie, Joe LeBlanc, but there was another gentleman with the heavy voice. I can't recall him.
Hugh Smith?
Hugh Smith. Yeah, he was one of the favorites, and there were many, and it was an interesting time for us because by being in radio, it meant that we could be flexible in whatever we was doing, and because of the short length of time, naturally we could not do the songs that we would do in a live broadcast, but on a live stage. But because of the time limit, well, we would just give a sampling, and that meant when we did go into churches to sing, they were familiar with many of the songs we had sang, and they would request that we would do them again. And I think it should be also mentioned that this has been blessed over the years because in the opening we mentioned the ones who were the former members, but throughout the year, as for reasons beyond our control, one member would leave, there was always someone else there to take his place. And watch that singing is not as popular in this area as it was then, but at that time, quartets was a very popular way of singing, and everyone enjoyed the quartet groups. And then later years, the choirs came in and took over. But we're thankful to God that He has blessed many of the former members who are still active, maybe not with the group, but in church work and still doing the work of the Lord. As we have here in the room, Freddie Williams, who is the former member, and Ray Robinson, who was the musician, guitar player, bass player, and wherever else he used to fill in. He was a lead singer also. I remember him jumping in on several of the songs and giving me some help with the leading. And we also want to mention, call the name of two former members who one is still alive, but his had a most unfortunate accident, and that was Calvin Woods, who was one of the former members, and then one of the deceased members, Gerald Stewart. And we hope that if we get a chance to have some of the former songs aired from that era, you'll hear the voice of Gerald Stewart doing some of the lead work in some of the songs that we sang at that time. Also, Lloyd Thomas is still very active in the church. He's not with us in the studio. And we cannot forget Reverend Grant Hill, who was one of our managers at that time, who made great contributions and went out of his way so many times to convenience for us. Not only did he help to transport us from place to place, but he would always give us a big meal at his home. And we would go down to games and enjoy with he and his wife, and many ways that he showed his hospitality toward us.
Mm-hmm. Wow, very interesting. I want to ask you about another person who worked here at KTIB for a long time. You had very high praise of on the phone, who of course did dialogue for a long time, Marie Bergeron.
Marie Bergeron was one of the station managers at the time when we were here, and she was one person, a very, very, very well versed person, and she made sure that when the Southern Tone was ready to come in to perform, she made sure that every microphone, everything was set and ready to go without any delay. And she would always caution us about sometimes even our appearances, or sometimes our misdemeanor, or something, like that. She would always be with us and to try to give us some vision on how this thing should be done at a radio station. And she was very well, a well-rounded lady. Mm-hmm. Yes. And Mr. Ellis also worked at her house during the school time when he was in elementary school, and Mr. Ellis' mother worked for her mother during the time when she was doing housework and everything. And this is Marie Bergeron.
Very much so. A great part of our station's history as well. Well, I know besides singing, a lot of you had some other lines of work as well. I'd like to ask each of you right now, starting with Mr. Verrett, what you all do for a living.
Well, right now I'm a retired school teacher of 30 years in the Bush Parish school system. And during the time when I was working, I had two jobs. I would teach school, and I would work at the Children of the Chemist. And then we would come back and have our rehearsals, and we would travel on highways and everything. And I did this as a person to give to the community and work very diligently in the school system. I love working with the youngsters. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me go to Mr. Williams.
Okay, I worked at LaPuche Sugar, and so I've been there for quite a long time and raised all my family. Thank God for that. And so that's where I am also right now.
And, of course, I know LaFou Sugars, they bought lumber for my father often. Let me go over here to Mr. Robinson, the quiet man of the bunch today. What do you currently do for a living?
Well, I work at, I started in 79 at Red Stick Land Company, and then Sentai bought the company out, and I retired after 25 years. I also hauled sugar at LaFou Sugar for 20 years, from 4 to 12 at night, two jobs, and it was very successful for me.
Very good. Now over to Reverend Clark.
Yes, I thank God for the fact now what I'm doing is full-time pastor, pastor St. John Baptist Church, Napoleonville, 3659 Highway 1, and the Mount Olive Baptist Church in Gray, 3706 West Main Street, and the St. John Baptist Church in Burbank, 508 Utah Street. And that's my work now that I'm doing, and I thank God for having had the privilege to, and with the Southern Tones over the years, and we had some great memories and still do. We meet every now and then and reminisce over the things of the past, and thank God we're all still working on God's program.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Now, one thing I definitely like to ask as well, and I think we kind of touched briefly on the phone about this a little bit earlier, is that basically one reason why the show ended around 1999, the station got bought, and in other words, it was, I hate to use the wrong word, but a little bit of uncertainty as to whether or not the new management wanted to keep y'all on.
Okay, during that time when the station was bought and we did not know what the direction that we were going to take, we did not just quit the station, or we did not leave or end the program. What we did, we did not appear to the station until we were contacted through the new management. And my name is Barrett. Came up several times because the guys was asking me, and in the community they wanted to know why you all not on the radio. So what I did, I came up and I talked to two young ladies, one young lady from Cutoff and the other young lady was here, and they gave me their card, and they said that at that time they could not do anything for us at the time because it was under new management and they were trying to get their programs in line. So what I did, I kept the card and I just was waiting for them to call to give us some direction as to whether or not we would remain on the radio station or there was no space for us.
Well, I tell you what, it sounds like over all the many years y'all were the KTIB family and singing all over the area when people wanted you from New Orleans. One of the tapes I had, y'all performed at the Petroleum Festival down in the Morgan City area. It must make you all feel really well that as the years gone along, so many people still have a demand and want to hear good gospel music.
Well, gospel is a unique music within itself. It crosses all lines and all segment of people. There in music, you have various kinds of music lovers. Some like country western, some like contemporary, but quartet with gospel music is a music that covers all of the areas. We did not only music with the musical accomplishment, but we also did the a cappella songs and full voice harmonized, and that attracted various audiences that we went into. Freddie is here, and Johnny, who sang what was called at that time a falsetto contralto, and you don't hear that term used very much anymore. We hear tenors, first, second tenor, and baritone, bass, but those sounds they blend, and most of them were learned by the singers themselves. They've never had any formal musical training to voice training. It was just something that we would pick up, even growing up as youngsters, but not having all of the modern technologies of today. We would use a jug or a Coke bottle or something to sort of harmonize. Everything was about harmonizing, and that's the uniqueness of the quartet, is that we were able to take male voices, and in those male voices, we were able to get singers who could sing high enough where you would pick up the melodies that would give you the cross-section, and that is what made the quartet popular, where we would sing songs, and there's a famous group today still singing the Clarence Fountain and the Five Blind Boys. Well, there were most people who could not get out to hear Clarence Fountain and the Five Blind Boys, but when we would go on the program and we would do that song, well, then that would give us special attention because it would attract the attention of the audience, that we were able to more or less sing like the Five Blind Boys. And most quartets was versatile enough that we could sing like maybe 5, 6 different quartets on one stage, where we had the famous Mighty Clouds of Joy, or the Volunteers, the Supreme Angels, which at that time when we were traveling were some of the most famous groups. Well, we would sing one of their songs, and if you did that, well, then that audience would be attracted to you, because on maybe some of the other radio stations, they would hear those songs sang during the gospel programming. So that gave us more of a notoriety among the audiences that we sang for. And also, we mentioned the names of some of the members, but we left out one young man who, by the name of Gabriel Watkins. Gabriel suffered a most unfortunate accident. He lost his life, and he was one of the lead singers who came in after I left the group and carried on in that lead position for a number of years. And in the album that Southern Tone recorded, you would hear his voice doing some of the lead work in that song. And then there was another gentleman who left the group, and he is also somewhat failing health. That's Louis Jones. Louis was one of the former guitar players. As a matter of fact, when I joined the group as a guitar player. I followed Louis. He moved on to California, and I came aboard and began playing the guitar. And then Ray Robinson, who at that time was with the Rocks of Harmony in New Orleans, and Ray moved back home, and then we were able to pick up Ray and Percy Ward, and then I was able to take over doing the lead work along with Gerald, and this is how we moved on through the years. And when you mention travel, we had some Sundays where we would leave home in the morning, and we would be on the road all day. We would do 2 and 3 programs in one day on Sunday. Baton Rouge, Zachary, Baker, Blairtown, Opelousas, Washington, across Mandeville and your hometown, Covington, Slidell. We would travel all through those areas. Naturally, in our local area, Homer, Morgan City, Franklin, and we had the privilege on several occasions to open programs at Municipal Auditorium in New Orleans and Morgan City. We had the privilege on one occasion, a famous group they're all sleeping now, and the Davis Sisters were brought to Morgan City by the late Reverend Herman Brown, and we were invited to open the program, and that was the lady, Ruth Davis was the lead singer for that group, and it was just an honor to be invited to be on the same stage with Ruth and the Davis Sisters, because that comes from the era of Clara Ward and some of the groups of that time. And also, we thank God for Herman Brown, who was one of the great gospel promoters of this area in New Orleans. He was a disc jockey at the radio station WYLD, and he was one of the great promoters. And one thing about Herman, he loved the local groups. He would bring in the professional groups, but he would always bring in local groups to open programs. And we learned a lot from Herman, because Herman was a man of time. And just like we had to watch the time when we was on the air, when Herman said 20 minutes, he meant 20 minutes. And if you sung 21 minutes, he'll unplug the mic and move on to the next group.
Well, let me, do you have something else to say?
It's a continuation for Brother Watkins, Gabriel Watkins, one of our lead singers, that's Reverend Clark mentioned here. He was one of the, he joined the group in 1978, and he was one of the sole Methodist guy in the group. Everybody else was the Baptist, and he was the only Methodist guy in the group. And when he first came in, we heard him sing solos, and then we asked him to come and audition with the group in order to become a member of the group. And he had to sort of change from singing the solos in order to kind of maneuver his voice within the group to blend with us. And we found that he was one of the best lead singers that we had, along with Brother Lawrence Thomas. And Brother Gabriel would sing, and he would be the lead man out on the front there each time we would go out and sing, after Reverend Clark and Gerald Stewart. And after the accident that he had, then this is one of the things that really took the group, and we kind of he was killed by 18-wheeler over here in Boutique, and we lost that member. And Brother Gerald Stewart, he lost his life. He had coming from work, from the hospital in Morgan City. He turned over in the canal, and they found him the next day. Just coming off from work, those types of things. We've had tragedies in the group, and we've had some real good time. We've been up on the mountaintop, and we've been down in the valley. And all in all, we are still around at this time. And I'm so happy to see that Reverend Clark and Ray Robinson is here with us there. original member, Brother Freddie Williams. And this is where the group started. At the Morning Star Baptist Church, they were members of that church under the direction of Reverend Sherman Washington. And this is where the group started from that inception.
Well, unfortunately, we're getting ready to run out of time, and I know all of us can spend hours and hours talking about all the great history you've been a part of, not just with KTIB, but out in the community. And I just want to say to all of you, we can't thank you enough for your time, and thanks for being part of the anniversary series.
Well, we thank you for your time this afternoon, and again, we want to say God bless you.
We also caught up with Mrs. Carrie Ellis, the wife of longtime Southern Tones radio announcer Raymond Ellis, about her husband and some standout moments in his life. Carrie Ellis, how are you today?
Fine.
All right. Well, let's start from the beginning. Are you from our area originally?
I am originally from Florida Plantation, which is 3 miles from Thibodeau.
Okay. Was your husband also from our area?
Yes. He was born near Thibodeau, which was known as the Dugard Plantation, and now is called the Country Club Subdivision.
How did you and Mr. Ellis first meet?
I was introduced to him by a friend, and then we became friends. From there on, we started dating, and we decided to get married.
I read where Mr. Ellis's father was a reverend. Did Mr. Ellis ever think of becoming a reverend himself when he was young?
Maybe when he was young, but when he grew older, he just wanted to be an educator.
Now, is it true that Mr. Ellis was the first African-American to graduate from Nicholls State University?
Yes, he was.
And also, what was his degree, by the way?
He had a BA in Social Studies, a MA in Guidance, and also plus 30.
And, of course, a lot of the young people out there will know him for a very long time as a counselor at West Thibodeau Junior High, and did a very good job with all the young people out there as well. Obviously, Mr. Ellis's life was more than just doing the Southern Tones, very important educator in our community, and we can't say enough of his work in that in addition to the Southern Tones. Well, before we go out, is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners?
Yes. It is an honor to have had the opportunity to share with the listener my husband's accomplishments and many contributions. I would like to say thank you to all of the people who continue to keep his legacy alive and who have acknowledged and honored his work in the community. Thank you.
This concludes Part 1 of our dedication to the Sensational Southern Tones Gospel Program. Please go to Part 2, which is immediately following this particular episode.
Let's go back and sample one of those broadcasts of the Sensational Southern Tones. We'll start it off with their beloved theme song, Lord, Let Me Live.
once again, a most pleasant good morning to all of you, our Christian friends who have tuned in this morning. I'm Raymond Ellis, and I welcome all of you once again to the Sunday morning gospel program presented to you by the Sensational Southern Tones of Thibodaux, Louisiana. And we're coming to you by way of radio station KTIB, located here in uptown Thibodaux, Louisiana. And as always, we invite and we certainly do encourage all of you to tune in to radio station KTIB, where you can be entertained throughout the day, each and every day. KTIB-AM 40 on your radio dial. And we'd like to take this opportunity to thank the staff and the management of radio station KTIB for giving us the opportunity to come to you each and every Sunday morning at this very time. And as always, we'd like to dedicate our entire program to all of the sick and the shut-ins all over the world, and especially to those who are confined to the various hospitals and nursing homes within our listening area. The Southern Tones do hope to play a selection this morning that may help to lift up a bowed down head or help to mend a broken heart. We're going to come to you now with this next selection.
Your grace and mercy brought me through. I'm living this moment because of you. I won't thank you and praise you too. Your grace and mercy brought me through. For your grace and mercy brought me. I'm living this moment because of you. I wanna thank you.
Your Grace and Mercy. We certainly do hope that you enjoyed that selection. And for those of you who are just tuning in, you're listening to the regular Sunday morning gospel program presented to you by the Sensational Southern Tones of Thibodaux, Louisiana. And that selection went out to Kathleen Queen, Your Grace and Mercy, in memory of Miss Mary Alice Queen, and to Mr. and Mrs. Roland Everett Jr., and in memory of Roland Everett Sr. and Mrs. Teresa Page Everett. We have some announcements that we'd like to pass on to you at this time, and we'll call on our own Brother Lawless Thomas, who's going to make the announcements this morning. Brother Lawless.
Good morning, and Radio Land. These announcements. Morning Star Baptist Church of Johnson Ridge celebrates its 124th anniversary at 5 p.m. today. The Reverend Eugene Brown, pastor. Also, a gospel musical on Saturday, May the 30th at 6:30 p.m. The public is encouraged to come out and support this program. Yet in Christ, Sister Grace Brown, sponsor, the Reverend McCullum Williams, pastor. Also, there will be a grand musical at the Sunlight Baptist Church in Gaines, Louisiana, June 14th, time 2 p.m. The Reverend Grant Hill is the pastor. Some of the participants in this program will be yours truly, Brother Lawless Thomas, also Brother August Harding, and some of the other known gospel soloists from our area. Thank you.
And thank you, Brother Lawless. This next selection goes out to Celestine Foss. It's coming in from her sister-in-law, Mrs. Dorothy Jacqueline Bailey. And I will dedicate this next selection to my sister, Jacqueline, in memory, and also in the memory of our dad, Reverend Earl Ellis, and in memory of Uncle Kuti, Uncle Calvin, and Blanche Sheep. This next selection goes out to Mrs. Rochelle Campbell Howard, formerly of Thibodaux, and now resides in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. A bank is recently held in Baton Rouge honoring Rochelle as Nurse of the Year. Rochelle works at Baton Rouge Hospital, and she's a graduate of Thibodaux High School. And this comes in from her mom, Mrs. Patricia Lawson Duplantis, and her stepfather, Elis Duplantis of Thibodaux, Louisiana. So congratulations to someone who's special in my life, and we've been very close friends and like brothers since high school days. On June the 1st, Bishop Leroy Carr will receive his Doctorate of Theology degree from A.T. Clay Christian Theological College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm proud of my big brother for his lifelong accomplishments, and especially for his devotion to God and his service to the community as an inspiring religious leader. And this next selection goes out to Mr. Lance Anthony Tillman, who will graduate from Thibodaux High School on this coming Friday. Lance is the son of Earl Jr. and Gail Marie Ellis Tillman. Still in the family, wishing a happy belated birthday to my own mom, Mrs. John Ellis, who celebrated birthday May the 21st, and she was 83 years old. This comes in from all her sons, daughters, grandchildren, etc. Also to my brother, Lawrence Ellis of Kansas City, Missouri, who will celebrate a birthday on next Friday, June the 29th. Happy birthday, Lawrence. And this comes in from Tad Zell, Chanel, Lisa, Trinity, and Raymond and Carrie, and from all of the folks here in Thibodaux, Louisiana. And we'd like to send this next selection out to another family member, Arthur Williams, and his wife Evelyn from Shreveport, Louisiana. They're visiting here this weekend for the Memorial Weekend. They had an auto accident, and we're hoping that all is well this morning. I know the feeling, and I said to Arthur and Evelyn, God will take care of you. Just take your burdens to the Lord and leave him there, for he knows just how much you can bear. We're going to continue now with this next selection, but I think Brother Lawrence has something to say.
This selection will also be going out to Mrs. Carbertha Thomas, also Francis Brown, Reverend Melvin Mead and family, also to Earl and Lily Thompson, and also to the bereaved family of Brother Solomon Johnson.
We come to you now with this next selection. See what the Lord has done. Why don't you count your many blessings? See what the Lord has done. And for those of you who may just be tuning in, you're listening to the regular Sunday morning gospel program presented to you by the Sensational Southern Tones of Thibodaux, Louisiana. We're coming to you by web radio station KTIB, located here in uptown Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Okay, the next selection is also going out to my family, Patricia Turner, Freddie III, and Mark Williams, Betty Jean Williams, and Nellie Williams, and also to my wife, Emily Williams. And this is the next selection also going out to the sick children, especially to my boss, Urban Jr. and his family, and to the rest of the staff of La Push Sugar.
And this next selection goes out to Cheryl and Coyle Farragut, visiting home for the weekend with Grandma Dee and other family members, wishing them the very best. We're going to come to you now with this next selection. And as we look at the clock on the wall, it tells us that we are near the end of our program for this morning, Brother Wallace.
We will thank each and everyone for listening and ask you to tune in each and every Sunday morning to your own Sensational Southern Tones. And remember, today is Sunday. Let's go out to the church of your choice and have a wonderful day.
So until that next Sunday, may God bless and continue to keep each and every one of you in a peaceful way. We thank you very much this morning.
I was talking to my lady I was, and all the words that she said. You know what she said to me, dear? If you say my child's away, and you say you here's what I want to do. I'm waiting. Oh, I'm waiting for my child to come home. Seems like I can hear right now. But she said something like this. I'm waiting. Oh, yeah. I'm waiting. Oh, for my child to come. I'm not crying. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Oh, for my child. Seems like I can hear saying something like this. Oh, my child, take me somewhere. Oh, yeah. Oh, you think me. Oh, with no one to oh, no. She stepped right on. Lord Almighty. Yeah. Oh, my child, take me somewhere. Oh, yeah. Someone is there. Oh, with no one to and I remember the way I'm waiting and waiting. Oh, yeah. She kept right on crying. I'm waiting and waiting. Oh, for my child to come. Will you please send me one letter? Oh, no, one letter. Oh, it will mean so much to me. I'm waiting and waiting. Oh, Lord, my child to come. She kept right on crying, sure I'm waiting. I'm waiting and waiting. Oh, for my child. will be. Yeah.
The Sensational Southern Tones, a gospel music tradition at its best, and one of the most